The metallic clang of the ship's hull reverberated through Alex Mercer's skull as the transport vessel descended toward the alien planet. Outside the reinforced windows, the planet loomed, lush and green. But beneath that beauty, there was something dangerous. The aliens who had taken them, Zalner and his elite hunting party, had never seen humans before, but Alex had a sinking feeling they were about to learn the hard way what it meant to underestimate the human spirit. Inside the ship, Alex studied his fellow captives. They were a mix of military personnel and diplomats, all gathered for what was supposed to be a peaceful exchange. But peace was a distant memory now. The mission had gone sideways the moment Zalner's fleet intercepted their vessel in the dark expanse of space. No negotiation, no warning, just a brutal ambush. "We're not going to be able to talk our way out of this," Alex muttered to himself, shifting in his seat. His military instincts flared, but he knew the odds were slim. The alien ship, despite its sleek, advanced technology, felt like a prison to him. Cold metal walls, dim lighting, and the occasional hiss of alien air filtration systems were all reminders that they were at the mercy of their captors. A voice echoed from the ship's PA system, a strange alien language mixed with a sharp tone. It was Zalner's voice, but Alex couldn't understand the specifics. He could tell from the tone alone that the alien leader was enjoying every moment of their imprisonment. There was a certain arrogance in his voice, the kind that comes with believing one's own superiority was unquestionable. Then, the words switched to a language Alex could understand, though the alien's pronunciation was far from perfect. "Humans," Zalner's voice crackled. "Welcome to your test. You are fortunate. No species has ever had the honor of being hunted by me. You will be released on my hunting grounds. You will attempt to survive. If you do, you may walk free. If not, well, let's say your lives will be a lesson to others." The transmission cut off, and the ship lurched as it landed on the surface of the planet. A metallic door opened, and armed alien guards stood in a formation outside the vessel, their eyes cold and calculating. Alex could see the disdain in their posture. Humans were nothing to them, merely a challenge for sport. "Get moving," a guard growled, nudging Alex's shoulder with the barrel of a pulse rifle. Alex stood slowly, his mind racing. He had been in tight spots before, but this felt different. The aliens saw them as nothing more than prey, unaware that humanity had learned to survive in the harshest conditions, from the battlefields of Earth to the hostile vacuum of space. He turned to his comrades, soldiers, diplomats, and civilians alike. Their faces ranged from terrified to resigned, but Alex's gaze was steady. "Stick together. Use your heads. We survive this together or we die together." The group nodded, their fear momentarily quelled by his steady demeanor. As they filed out of the ship, the alien landscape sprawled before them. The air was thick with moisture, and towering trees loomed overhead, their twisted branches entwined in an eerie dance. Strange, luminous flowers bloomed beneath their feet, casting an unsettling glow over the land. The planet was beautiful, but Alex didn't trust it. He could feel the weight of the hunt bearing down on them, the invisible eyes of their captors watching from above. "Remember," Alex said, his voice low, "they'll be watching us the entire time. But they're not invincible. We're not helpless." He could see the skepticism in some of their eyes, but it didn't matter. In this world, doubts had no place. Zalner's voice cut through the air once more, booming over a speaker system hidden among the trees. "Your trial begins now. I will release my hounds. If you make it to the designated safe zone in 3 days, you may live. If not," his laughter echoed, cold and mirthless, "we'll see how long you last." Before Alex could respond, the ground trembled beneath them, and the sound of heavy footsteps echoed from the depths of the jungle. The hunters were coming. "I don't think they're planning to wait 3 days, one of the soldiers muttered, his hand resting on his weapon. Alex took a deep breath, surveying the jungle. It was hostile, undoubtedly filled with predators of its own, creatures designed for hunting, just like their alien captors. The landscape might as well have been another war zone, and Alex was used to those. He wasn't going to run, not from these aliens. If there was one thing humans had learned through centuries of struggle, it was that they didn't run from danger, they adapted. Get ready, Alex said. We move fast. We use everything around us. They want a hunt? They're going to get a fight. The group took their first step forward into the dense jungle. And as they did, they heard the low growl of something much larger moving through the underbrush, a warning that the true hunt was about to begin. This chapter sets the tone for the story, establishing Alex as a leader with military experience and determination. It introduces the hostile alien world, their cruel intentions, and the human resolve to not just survive, but fight back. The narrative is focused on building tension and introducing the stakes, while foreshadowing the struggle that lies ahead for the humans. The jungle was alive with sounds. The buzz of alien insects, the rustle of leaves, and the distant growls of unseen predators. The air was thick with moisture, and every breath felt like inhaling steam. Alex Mercer led his group cautiously through the underbrush, his senses heightened. He didn't need to look back to know the others were tense, their eyes flickering nervously toward every shadow and movement in the dense foliage. It had been hours since their release from the ship, and the first signs of the alien hunters were beginning to show. The ground beneath their feet was uneven, a mix of slippery mud and hard, jagged rocks. The jungle canopy above blocked out most of the sunlight, creating an oppressive atmosphere. But Alex's mind was focused, thinking several steps ahead. We need to get higher ground, he muttered under his breath. That'll give us a better vantage point. One of the soldiers, Private Reyes, nodded. The trees might provide cover, but we'll be exposed when we climb. Alex gave a quick nod, his hand gesturing to the nearby trees. Exposed is better than blind. We'll be ready. Reyes and the others followed his lead as they made their way to the nearest tree. Alex glanced up, noting the thick vines and wide branches that might support their weight. These alien trees were massive, far larger than anything they'd encountered back home, and their dark leaves seemed to pulsate with an unnatural rhythm. The climb was difficult, but the humans were used to hardship. They moved quickly, but quietly, staying low to avoid drawing attention. The tree branches creaked under their weight, but Alex kept his gaze fixed ahead. From his perch, Alex could see the jungle stretch for miles, its eerie beauty now tainted with the knowledge of what was hunting them. It was an alien world, but the basics of survival were the same. Find shelter, find food, and don't get killed. His thoughts were interrupted by a rustling in the underbrush far below. The hounds were near. The hounds, massive beasts bred for hunting, were the first wave of Zalner's attack. With their muscular bodies, glowing eyes, and snarling jaws, they had been designed to track and eliminate prey. Alex's military training kicked in, his mind already calculating their next move. We'll move at night, Alex said, lowering his voice. We can use the cover of darkness. We need to keep moving. Staying in one place is as good as asking for death. We'll need to build traps, said Sergeant Taylor, who had been quietly assessing the area since they climbed. His voice was steady but grim. Something to slow them down. Alex nodded. Exactly. We use what we have. They'll underestimate us. But that's their mistake. The humans worked quickly, gathering materials from the jungle to craft rudimentary traps. Vines, fallen branches, and rocks were fashioned into snares, tripwires, and pitfalls. It wasn't much, but it was enough to give them an edge. In the distance, they could hear the low growls of the hounds, closer now, but still not close enough to threaten them. As the day turned to dusk, Alex gathered his team around, his voice firm but low. We can't afford to run. If we do, we lose. We've survived worse odds. Today's no different. He glanced at the faces of his comrades. Some terrified, some resigned, but all determined. Alex's words didn't promise safety. They didn't promise victory. But they did promise that they weren't going down without a fight. And that, in the end, was all that mattered. The jungle settled into darkness, and Alex's team, now ready for the worst, prepared to face it head-on. They wouldn't run. They wouldn't hide. This was their fight, and they would fight until the very end. This chapter focuses on the resilience of humanity, demonstrating Alex's leadership and the group's determination. It introduces the first real signs of the alien predators, Zalner's hounds, and shows how the humans adapt to their environment. The narrative conveys the growing tension while emphasizing the idea that running isn't an option. They must use their resourcefulness to survive. The night was silent, save for the distant calls of strange creatures hidden in the jungle. Alex Mercer sat crouched in the shadows of their makeshift camp, his eyes scanning the surroundings. The air was thick with humidity, the oppressive heat of the planet's jungle pressing down on them. Despite the risks, Alex felt a flicker of something else. Determination. The traps had been set, and the group had moved deeper into the jungle, away from the initial clearing where they'd first been released. It was a gamble, but they needed to create space between themselves and the alien hounds, which were now patrolling in a methodical grid pattern. Alex could feel the tension mounting with each passing minute. "I don't get it," muttered Sergeant Taylor as he knelt beside Alex, watching the terrain through his binoculars. "How are they not on us yet?" Alex furrowed his brow, eyes narrowing. The aliens had a reputation for speed, intelligence, and ruthlessness. Yet, so far, they had failed to capture or even corner the humans. That wasn't supposed to happen. "Maybe they're underestimating us," Alex said quietly, glancing around. "They're used to being the hunters. They think we're prey. But they haven't taken into account that we're not the usual game." Taylor chuckled darkly. "Let's hope they keep thinking that." Suddenly, a sharp howl pierced the silence, cutting through the night air. The hounds were close. Alex's instincts kicked in, and he motioned for the group to stay still, his hand resting on the sidearm at his waist. The team had learned quickly to stay silent and blend into the shadows, but Alex's thoughts were racing. There was something strange about this entire hunt. Something off. The aliens had vast technology at their disposal, but they hadn't attempted to use it yet. They were making mistakes, and Alex intended to capitalize on them. "We need to start pulling the hounds toward the traps," Alex whispered to Taylor. "Set them off and use the distraction to keep moving." The sergeant nodded and relayed the plan to the rest of the group. It was risky, but it was the best option they had. The hounds would follow the scent, and if they triggered the traps, it might slow them down long enough for the humans to gain more ground. Alex led the group forward, staying low and careful as they moved through the dense foliage. Their efforts were paying off, at least for the moment. The hounds howled again, but now, they seemed less focused, their steps uncertain. The traps had triggered, but the hounds had not been taken down. They were confused, following the scent, but the humans weren't in their immediate line of sight. "That's not right," muttered Reyes, who had been keeping watch behind them. "The hounds should have been all over us by now." Alex's brow furrowed in thought. "We've been pushing them too far." It dawned on him suddenly. The hounds weren't the only predators in the jungle. They were part of the first wave, but something more intelligent, more deadly, was lurking in the shadows. Alex realized the alien hunters hadn't just underestimated humanity. They had made a grave miscalculation. They thought the jungle itself was their weapon, but it was just as dangerous for them as it was for the humans. "I think we've caught their attention," Alex said, a quiet edge of satisfaction in his voice. "But not in the way they think." The aliens, who prided themselves on their superior technology, had assumed their predators would overpower the humans. But they hadn't anticipated the cunning of the humans themselves. They hadn't accounted for the simple fact that humanity would use their environment not just to survive, but to turn the tide of the hunt. As the hounds began to retreat into the depths of the jungle, confused and snarling, Alex knew they had succeeded, at least for now. But the real challenge was still ahead, proving to the aliens that humanity was not something to be hunted. "Keep moving," Alex commanded, his voice firm. "They're learning, but we can't afford to let up." As they pressed forward into the jungle, the first signs of victory began to form. A small, fragile victory in the face of overwhelming odds. The aliens had underestimated them, but they weren't going to make that mistake again. This chapter deepens the tension, revealing the growing realization that the aliens have miscalculated their approach to the humans. Alex's strategy is slowly starting to work, using both the environment and the humans' resourcefulness to turn the tables on the hunters. The chapter emphasizes the theme of underestimation, showing how humanity's survival instincts and adaptability are beginning to make a mark on the alien hunters. The jungle was a dark, oppressive place by the time Alex and his group reached the clearing, where the final stage of their struggle would unfold. The sky above was a patchwork of stars, obscured by the thick canopy of trees, but the dim glow of alien lights flickered through the foliage. The sound of footsteps, heavy, deliberate, and confident, came from behind. The hunt was nearing its climax. Alex stood still, his breathing slow but steady, the weight of his weapon feeling like a part of his body. The others were positioned in the shadows, each one set in a defensive stance. They had used every trap, every distraction, and every moment of chaos to create this opportunity, and now they would make their stand. "They think we're broken," Alex murmured, his eyes narrowing on the distance. "They think we're running." Beside him, Sergeant Taylor kept his gaze fixed on the perimeter. It won't be long now. It had been days since they had been released onto this planet, and through every test, every pursuit, Alex had kept his team alive. The hounds were gone, sent into disarray by the traps, but the real predators were still coming, Zalner's elite hunting party. The aliens were ready to finish what they started. Alex could hear their voices in the distance, the alien hunters confident in their superiority. Zalner's voice rang out first, speaking to his followers in their native tongue. Alex couldn't understand the exact words, but the tone was unmistakable. The aliens were certain that the humans would soon be captured. "Let them come," Alex muttered under his breath, clenching his fist. He had waited for this moment, the moment when they would no longer be prey, but predators in their own right. The first alien emerged from the undergrowth, tall and armored, its form sleek but imposing. It was followed by another and then more. They moved with practiced ease, confident in their strategy, their eyes scanning for movement, but none of them were prepared for what was about to unfold. Alex gave a subtle signal, and in a flash the humans sprang into action. Reyes and Taylor laid down suppressing fire, their weapons blasting through the air with precision. The aliens immediately took cover, their shock evident. They hadn't expected such an aggressive response. Alex darted from his position, weaving between the trees, staying low, moving quickly. His heart was steady, his mind sharp, calculating each step like a chess player. The aliens, despite their advanced technology, were disorganized, their confidence shattered by the humans' unexpected fight. They had underestimated them again. The jungle erupted in chaos. Alien hunters fired their energy weapons into the shadows, but Alex and his team were already one step ahead. They'd anticipated the move. The humans had set false trails, leaving decoys and fake positions. It wasn't a fight of strength, it was a fight of will, and humanity's will was unbreakable. "Zalner!" Alex shouted, his voice carrying through the jungle. The alien leader stepped forward, towering over the others. His eyes burned with contempt, his posture regal as he finally realized the truth. The humans weren't running. They were fighting back, and they weren't going to stop. "You should never run from a human," Alex called out, his voice unwavering. "Because we don't give up. We don't give in. And we never, ever stop fighting." In that moment, the alien hunters faltered, their fear finally taking root. They had believed themselves to be the apex predators, but they had never truly understood humanity. Alex saw it in their eyes now, the realization that they had been wrong. The humans had turned the tide. Zalner roared in frustration, but it was too late. His forces were in disarray, their plans crumbling under the weight of human resolve. The battle was lost for them, not because they lacked strength or technology, but because they had failed to recognize one simple truth. Humans did not run. Humans fought. With the alien forces retreating, Alex stood tall, his chest heaving with controlled breath. The jungle had fallen silent once more, the echo of battle fading into the night. They had survived. They had won. "We don't run, and we don't hide," Alex said, turning to his team. His voice was steady, a sense of quiet triumph in his words. "We fight. And today we proved we're a force to be reckoned with." The team stood together, battered but not broken. The jungle, once a prison, now felt like home. They had faced the impossible and they had conquered it. The aliens had underestimated humanity, and now that mistake would haunt them forever. This chapter is the culmination of the human struggle, shifting the narrative from survival to defiance. Alex leads his team to a decisive victory, showing that humanity's strength is in its resilience and refusal to surrender. The alien hunters are forced to acknowledge that humans are not to be underestimated, closing the chapter on a note of empowerment and triumph.